Welcome to Throwing Bows. We're going to sit here. We're going to talk some MMA. We hope you like it. If you do, subscribe. Definitely leave your comments. We're going to be focused today on UFC Fight Island 7's main card. There is a lot to unpack there, so we definitely encourage you to
Oh, wow.
stick around with us to the end because I'm pretty sure we're going to have some takes for you on it. So with that, guys, man, where do we even start?
All right, so I'll kick it off. So
To you, my friend.
thank you. To be honest with you, the card was the main event was just it was good. It was really good. It was a well put together card. The fight that led in the fight that kicked everything off on ABC, that was a way to bring it in. Like you could see Shelby, you could see Dana White saying, "Yep, this is the vision. This is it. We're on the big leagues now, boys. Like we're in ABC, and boy, did we just bring this in with a bang." So hey, kudos to them. Puna did his thing. I wanted to talk about two, and so there was a shooting star who had gone viral. He had been defeated by one of my favorite middleweights right now, Kevin Holland. And Kevin Holland, shout out to you, calling this man your son, and go and basically say you feel like you take ownership for him. Good for you, Kevin Holland. Look, God knows I love some good shit talking. But calling Buckley your
man.
son, and then as he defeats people, you were getting happy for him. But if you know anything about it, he's got beef. Buckley's got beef with James Krause, and the word on the street is down there in St. Louis, he could be prickly. He didn't necessarily want to join a gym or jump into a gym, or if you listen to the rumors, that's what they say, right? And so you kind of get this idea that maybe Buckley has a little bit of an ego, and so he loses to Holland, but it wasn't the worst, Holland's knocking a lot of people out. Holland's knocking people out off his back. So, Dana gives him another fight, and then he kicks that poor guy in the face. He does a spinning wheel kick and kicks him in the face.
Yeah,
knocks him out, goes viral. UFC is like getting highlight reels on ESPN, and then he gets this next fight, and Dana says, "Okay, well, can you duplicate your efforts?" And the kid's like, "Yeah," and he doesn't spin and kick him, but he knocks him out. And so going into this fight with Alessio, I feel as if he was saying, I'm getting up there. Like I may be ranked. If I can beat this guy, I lost to Holland, true, but I could be top 15. And you could start seeing like he was believing a little bit of it. He was eating a little bit of it. And good for Sean Shelby and good for Dana White, where if you knuck, they buck. If you rocking, they rolling. And so if you think that you are good, let's put you up some better competition. And listen,
we're gonna see where your ass is at.
We're gonna see where you at.
That's for sure.
And so, it looked like he kind of went for a takedown, or he changed levels, and he just walked right into Alessio, perfectly timing a right, and shin on head, and the boy went night-night. And so, listen, it's what I said. You live by the sword, you die by the sword. Hey, let's put a bright spin on this. How many guys can say that they've been a part of that many highlight reel knockouts? Now, Buck has been part of a few highlight reel knockouts. So, sometimes you give them, sometimes you take them. But the good thing is you can always say that you were there. So,
very marketable trait as
right,
well.
Exactly. I mean, not everybody is part of finished fights. So there you go. The other thing I wanted to say, I'm sorry, Maria, did you have something you want to say about that?
I wanted to add something to that too. Because, and I think I said this to you off air, that I think what makes it even more unfortunate for Buckley is that, there are different types, there are levels to knockouts, right? You've got a knockout that you just could not do anything to avoid, couldn't see, it just happens.
Yeah.
He put himself in a position to get knocked out. In that, in making that level change, I don't want to say it was a sloppy level change, because it wasn't, but it wasn't necessarily the most crisp level change. He definitely didn't read the room, and he ended up getting himself caught. That said, you also got to really give Alessio a ton of credit, because had he lost that fight, I'm not sure if we would have seen him again in the UFC for a while.
That's true.
Because he had been on a losing streak.
Yeah,
and so I think that when you look at the drama from both sides, this made for an incredible fight, not just because of the result, because it was a quick fight, right? But just when you look at what was at stake, really for both of these guys. Mm-hmm. Buckley out here, literally being a human highlight reel. There's only but so many times you're going to do that before you get called up for the fight.
Yeah.
And Alicio damn near on his way out the door, and look how quickly, fortunes changed.
Yeah.
So I just think
it
was a level. It's the fight game. It's a level of complexity that I think your casual fan overlooks.
Yeah.
But it's important to call out because it's the reason we love this sport, because of shit like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm gonna drop this last one, and then I'm gonna let you guys have the floor, and I'm off in the sunset. So everybody knows I love Carlos Condit. I loved him in WEC. I loved him when he first came. Call it what you will. I may be one of the only people that actually thought he beat GSP. Maybe that's my bias. Call it what you will. I love Charlie Condit. Always have, always will. I was happy to see that he got back on the saddle. He had taken some time off. He won his last fight, and then they put him up against Matt Brown. And as someone on Twitter put it, it looks like it is going to be the best dads fighting behind a little league stand that they and I'm just like, now that's funny. Now that's a funny comment. But what I will say is this. I love that he kept his striking. He is a wrestler. He's been a wrestler since 6 years old. And sometimes he could get into situations where he wasn't comfortable doing it, and you would kind of scratch your head like, but you have a base in wrestling. Why are you not able to get better? And what I will say is this. Fighting someone as Matt Brown does have a good grappling game. And he did end up on his back a couple times. He fought. And you could see Condit was like working positions and not just content to lay on his back. He was consistently working the grappling game. You could see that when he was on top, he would have a leg in, and he was grabbing the ankle, and he was working wrist control. And so, like, I'm happy. I hope that what Dana said in the post conference is true. He's, first of all, when someone brought up to him that Dana was like, oh, well, this is his last fight on his card, on his contract, Dana was like, is that true? Like, oh no, I love Carlos Condit. Like, we need to get this man re-signed. And I'm like, I hope that's how you feel. But I say all that to say, I'm happy at least he has something to give to the boss to go to the negotiation table and say, I'm not dried up yet. This well is not dried up. Give me 3-4 fights. Let's see where it can go. Is he ever going to be a title contender again? I don't know. But what I will say is I'm just happy my boy has got 2. And that's me. That's all I got.
You can't go wrong with Carlos. You really can't. He's super nice guy, world-class human being. I've never heard anybody speak ill of him. And, considering some of the things that's being talked about out of that gym or where he was from, that's something good. I think because of name, you put him somewhere in the top 15 range, and you just see where he can go. First, you got to get to the business. Can we re-sign him?
Right.
Can we re-sign him? He's got the negotiating power just by, Dana's reaction at his press conference. I hope we see more of him. I definitely do think he's got more left to go. So, yeah, I think we'll see. I don't think you'll see him go anywhere.
So before we start talking about the other fights, I do want to call one thing out on this. Watching the fight, I felt like, damn, Carlos looks good. Like he's not going the Diego Sanchez route, right? Of one of the old guys who just needs to hang it out. Like, he still very much belongs in the octagon. But then I went back after the fight and started thinking about it. And it's like, well, wait a second. This man was a favorite in this fight. So clearly it's not what he's doing, what he has been doing over the last, over his last couple of fights is enough that there is still an incredible amount of respect for him. And he is still very much in it. So to y'all's point, the UFC needs to get it done, right? Because he is still a big enough name where he can get paid somewhere else, But also, you need him in the UFC as that division continues to evolve. I don't think that he should hang him up. He's nowhere near that based on that performance alone. But like Dana, you make other shit happen. You need to make sure that you make that happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, speaking of favorites, there were besides Buckley, there was another favorite that, well, actually, you could almost say that this was a card of upsets because across the board in the
Yeah.
main card, with the exception of Holloway,
Yeah.
all of the favorite fighters lost.
The
Yeah,
Argentinian coming back off his sabbatical. Ooh.
Oh, Ponzinibbio. Yeah. But also that was disrespectful. Giving him a minus 310 and the man hasn't fought in how long? Like
yeah,
that
that's
disrespectful. That I don't know what they were thinking with that one.
If I can be honest with you, and I think it's going to start. It really does need to start changing. I just feel like there's this sense of there's still just this disrespect for Chinese fighters,
Yes.
and I don't know if the UFC is aware, but these people can, like, these folks coming out of China can fight. We got a women's champion, and listen, if it all stacks out the way I want to, we're gonna have a super fight between two great Chinese fighters. There are good Chinese fighters, and the disrespect actually needs to stop.
Yeah, I think the UFC is perfectly aware of what's going on over there in China. That's why they built a performance center there. They've staked a flag in China. Now, during this pandemic, I don't know how all of that works out, and how that's affected operation and things of that nature.
Right.
I think the lack of respect for the Chinese fighter is based on just lack of eyeballs on them, because a lot of times, depending upon what organizations you may or may not follow,
Right.
if the UFC puts them on TV, this may be the first time you're actually putting eyeballs on them, depending upon how hardcore of a fan you are.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of fuels the disrespect. But like, somebody's got to explain how Vegas or these sports books put odds together. He was coming off a super long layoff, and I'm sorry, I don't agree with the Dominator about ring rust. I think it is a real thing.
It's real.
And then
it's just not.
Then you put him in with a dog. That guy, they talked about him, they were like, so I think it was complete lack of judgment on, good judgment on the sports book's part. Like, what were you thinking about? Like, if somebody could email me and tell me, hey, this is what our thoughts were, this is why, then okay. Not saying I would agree with it. I just like to hear the logic behind it.
Absolutely.
But I think you may have a bit of a young contender in that guy. I'm not going to attempt to butcher his name right now.
I just call him Lee.
Yeah, we'll call him Lee. All right, Li Jingyang. Yeah, he's there to fight. I like him.
But see, I think that there is still something a little bit more to it. And I think that the reasons that you're giving probably do lean into it. Because when you look at like the UFC's, top 15 across all of the men, there's only like 2 Asian fighters. The Korean Zombie, and what's that other young man's name? Song Yadong. That's it. And
is that the stun gun?
Yeah. So, we know that there are a ton of fantastic fighters coming out of China and coming out of Japan. But to your point, John,
They're Korean.
Korean fighters coming out of Korea, coming out of China. There are some Japanese fighters as well.
Oh,
we're not seeing them. And because we don't see them, they're not getting, I just think that they're disrespected as a whole.
Well, how much of that is do we at what point do we put that on fighters from whatever insert region, you know, we'll say China, for the sake of conversation, and for those fighters stepping up and taking advantage of opportunities. Because, there
Yeah.
was talk a couple of cards ago about the lack of representation from Brazil among the current champions. Well, I mean, if we're going to complain about those things, we got to at some point put it on the fighters and some opportunities given to them. Now, with that being said, this pandemic has probably thrown a monkey wrench in a lot of things. And
Mhm.
there were probably a lot of fighters that we were going to get to put eyeballs on. But then the pandemic happened, everything shuts down, nobody knows what the next move is, So I I'm going to keep a more optimistic view until I'm proven otherwise. I'll just keep it like that, but I do
All I'm
see
gonna say
where
is I
you
want
could get that leaning from, though. I do.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, listen, when you think about it, just what 7, 8 years ago, we didn't see Russian fighters, right? And now you've got a ton of fighters coming out of Russia and Kyrgyzstan and all of these other countries. So, I definitely think that there are ebbs and flows. I agree with you on your statement about the Brazilian fighters. Like, y'all got to step up. And also, y'all pretty much ran amok on the UFC for how many years? Like, it is nice to see the sport evolving in a way where
On
y'all can.
MMA in general.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's nice to see fighters coming from other places. That's
I,
that's all I
I,
have.
I think that my last stance on this is just like it's good for business, and I think Dana White is not an idiot, and I think Dana White realizes he can do something with his sport that football is having a hard time doing coming out of the United States, and it's a good thing that the sport existed outside of the United States before then. You had Pride, you had other places that have combat sports, and so I think that it's great because Dana is able to tap into what was already there, which is kind of why American football hasn't taken off in other places, right? He's kind of following that. He's following the NBA basketball model, which is we'll start putting things in here, we'll start building, and so maybe it wasn't malicious. The reason why this kid wasn't actually looked at. But I mean, I'll be honest with you, it only took me 1 minute because I think he was on the either the Chinese Contender Series or the Chinese version of like Ultimate Fighter. He was on one of those, and so I was before the fight. I was on the UFC app. And they were showing that series, and they were showing. I think he was the one that won it. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but at least this is where I saw his previous fight with him fighting someone in China for the series. And so, to your point, John, UFC has opened up a center, and now they're putting on productions for their fights just like they would in any other country that they're in. I kind of feel like this was a little lazy. I feel like 99.9% of fighters do have ring rust when they've been gone, and only Dominic Cruz, who doesn't have these types of things because it's a
Freak of
mental
nature.
thing.
Right,
Freak of
because it's
nature.
also
Yeah.
Dominic Cruz. Like,
Yeah. He's the only one. He's the
right,
only one.
exactly. Well, listen. I think we just got one more thing to talk about before we wrap up this
I
nice
think I know
little
where you're
bow.
going.
And I don't even know what to say, man. But that main event.
I know what to say. I know what to say. Volkanovski, come on, bro. Like you beat him that first one. The second one, most people think you lost.
I
And
know
so,
people.
right, and listen, even the boss thinks that the cards were wrong. And so everyone that looks at this, no doubt he won the first one. But then he came back, and most people would say that you lost the second one. And so there needs to be, in my mind, or in most people, public opinion, there needs to be a rubber match, Volkanovski, whether you want it or you don't. Now listen, you're about to go fight Ortega, who's apparently refound himself. And so we will see according to that. I will say this one way or the other. And if you listen to the post-conference, I couldn't agree with Dana more. After that performance, of which this was an up-and-comer, which other like people in UFC and MMA were like, this kid is the truth, and he's going to run through Holloway. And then he put on this performance, and he showed you his boxing, and he showed you how dominant he could be. I love the way Volkanovski fights, but I'm going to be honest with you, Volkanovski. You're not going to even throw 600 strikes and land 300 of them against this guy. You wouldn't even do that. Nobody would do that. And I am a huge Jose Aldo fan, but what I really feel like is this is the finishing touches of the Mona Lisa. I think when it is all said and done, Max Blessed Holloway will be the best 145 to have done it. Like, he is putting the finishing touches. So I say this is what it is. Volkanovski, you don't got a choice. Dana said that based upon that performance, the next guy is Holloway. And he's going to let Holloway chill out. I'm going to be honest with you. Ortega looked pretty good. If Ortega wins, Ortega wants that rematch. Yep. And especially
he absolutely does.
After Holloway did that, and he's like, wow, that is amazing. He kind of left me looking like that, but maybe I can go out. Ortega, I'll give it to him. He's not a coward, so he's not going to run from it. But Ortega has a chance here where he can beat Volkanovski, get the strap, and then try to go and get revenge on his loss that he has. I think one way or the other, we see Max Holloway get his strap one more time. That's a hot take. You heard it here first. I'm first calling it. Whatever you have it. I don't think he's done. I think we got 3 more years of the Blessed.
I am absolutely all about, my first class ticket on the Blessed Express. I absolutely don't think he's done. I think he will get the strap back. I think I almost hope that Ortega wins against Volkanovski because I want to see it again between Max and Ortega. Yep. But the same thing we asked of Cater, we have to ask of Ortega is how many years did that shave not only off of your career but your life. Getting in the ring with Max and Max putting a beating like that on you. Not a lot of fighters. That's something that I want to touch on another piece, but like how they come back from something like that, like how it affects them, because not a lot of fighters can come back from a beating like that. And Ortega, thus far, obviously since being a title shot, has checked boxes so far. Now let's see if he can check the final box, beat Volkanovski, and see if you can get that receipt cashed in on that ass whooping that you got from Blessed.
I feel like The Rock right now because it doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter what Ortega does. It doesn't matter what Volkanovski does. Neither one of them, I think, can beat Max Holloway in 2021. Period. The end. Because here is the thing for me with Ortega versus Volkanovski. I hear you when you say you'd like to see Ortega win, but I have not seen that much evolution in Ortega's game from when Holloway beat him to now. So unless I see something dramatically different in his approach in the octagon in that fight for the strap, to me, I already know how that fight with Holloway ends. Him getting his ass beat again and being sat down again. I do not see, because it's like...
Still entertaining.
Oh, listen. That ass whooping that he's going to give out is going to be entertaining whoever gets it. But for me, I'm looking at it from the perspective of they've both improved, right? All of these guys are professionals. All of them are constantly working to get better. So Ortega, you are better. But if you are this much better since the last time you fought Max, Max is this much better since the last time he fought you. Really, in my opinion, you got nothing for him. And same thing with the current champ. You lost that fight. Apparently, you must have been giving the judges the same Kool-Aid that John Jones is giving the judges, where in close fights on the cards, the champ always seems to get the advantage. The problem with that fight for me was I didn't feel like it was that close that it should have even been in question. All that said, again, Volkanovski, you're here. Holloway is here. So I really don't think it matters which one wins. Max gets his belt either way. I would prefer to see Volkanovski and him go again than to see him and Ortega go again.
Last thing I'm going to say, he threw 600 strikes and boxed him out without sparring. He did not spar this camp.
What?
He didn't spar.
They talked about it.
Yeah.
Also, anybody who's maybe watching and or listening to this, not everybody can do what Max did, okay? So don't you show up to practice on Monday talking about, well, shit, I mean, Max didn't spar, so I ain't got to spar.
Levels.
I am of the thought that you need to get punched in your snot box on a repeated basis to see if I can, formulate a thought and still function while getting the life beat out of me. So, there's levels, and Max is at that level where he can do that. Not a lot of them can.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I know it's the first card of the new year, and I tend to not be one of those hyperbole people that will see something as this is the greatest and blah, blah, blah. But I can't front. I think that I will be hard pressed to see a greater individual performance in 2021 than what Max Holloway put on this weekend.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
Well, guys, this is what we thought about the main event and about the main card in general. With that, we're going to let you go. Let us know what you thought. Leave some comments. You can, hit us up on Twitter like we tell you guys every time. If you're rocking, we're rolling, you can say whatever you want, and we will definitely come back at you either in support or to maybe let you know you're wrong. Who knows?
All the keyboard gangsters.
All the keyboard.
It'll be a good time.
It'll be for fun, guys, for fun. So listen, you can hit us up on Twitter. Our handle is @BowsThrowing. You can also, like I said, leave a comment. Also, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to tell your friends.
Please.
Get in on the action. Get these conversations with us. And, if you like it and you want to just leave us a voicemail and tell us, yeah, you guys are great, or you're right, or yo, y'all are full of shit, you can do that too.
Yes.
The number that you need to call is 306-7.
No, let us know.
Bows. That's 306-791-2697. So with that, we'll let you guys go. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.
Peace.